The battle lines are drawn very clearly in Kerala. Welcome, Swagatham. Events are invitations to think. That's my fundamental article of belief. But in order to think on events and evolving situations, it is necessary to step aside a little bit, because if you get into a situation, you cannot think about it objectively. For example, you cannot think clearly about a skirmish in which you are participating. But after the skirmish is over, you can recollect that episode and think about it, perhaps in a cool and calm fashion. But there is always the danger that when you recollect that event in which you participated, something of the original intensity repossesses you and upsets the balance of objectivity. Be that as it may, we can afford to step aside from this strife that's unfolding itself in Kerala. Therefore, let me very quickly name or label this strife. And I use the word strife very precisely and advisedly, because there is no other word for it. What's unfolding in Kerala began as a strife between two individuals, male and female, man and woman, man being Boche, woman being Honey Rose. It has quickly reconfigured itself as a strife between the two genders, male and female. So, to put it in familiar terms, a gender war has been declared or inaugurated in Kerala, which affords us the appropriate opportunity or context in which to undertake a very profitable, valuable, I would say even unavoidable, necessary examination or reflection, which is what constitutes the sum and substance of this presentation. Now, I use the word strife advisedly, I said. Why do I say so? I said so, and I drew your attention deliberately to this word strife, not only because it is accurate, precise, but also because there is a certain psychology that underlies it, and nobody is talking about it, and therefore I thought I might add my bit of reflection from this particular angle, which is quasi psychological, quasi cultural, quasi political. Now, what is the value or what is the meaning of strife? Not the lexical meaning, but the experiential meaning, the intentional meaning. Why does a person resort to the strategy of strife? Why does a person resort to strife as a life strategy? That's something that we need to clearly understand. Most people, a majority of people who actually resort to this strategy, are unclear about the psychology that drives this choice. And all of us are involved in strifes, conflicts, if you like, one way or another, at various stages in our life. There is domestic strife in the form of husband-wife tension, also in the form of parent-children tensions. There is strife in the workplace, conflicts among colleagues. There is strife in society between various contending social formations. There is strife in the domain of politics. Political parties are constantly striving against each other. And there is also international strife. Nations are contending with nations. So, at all levels of human organization, you find this reality of strife. And therefore, it's worthwhile, indeed necessary, to be a little clearer about the psychology of this strife. Let me put it very bluntly and as simply as I can. Strife is the strategy that individuals and groups universally resort to in order to create and protect a space for oneself, either as individuals or as groups. That's my fundamental statement. In other words, through strife, individuals and groups seek to carve out a protected space for themselves. And from this insight, we can now proceed to understand what's unfolding in Kerala. Now, Honey Rose is very keen to, and she has every right to, protect her own space. She's telling Boche, don't trespass into this protected space. This is my private space. You have no business to poke your long nose into it. Boche on his own is trying hard to create his commercial space. Honey Rose is trying to create and protect her gender space, which is also a personal space, because person and gender are like body and soul, inseparable. Boche is creating or striving hard, endeavoring hard to create his commercial space. And in his endeavor to create and enlarge this commercial space, he is using a strategy. And that is deriving the advantage of the personal image that Honey Rose has so carefully and painstakingly conjured up over a period of time, in which process she uses her own techniques, her own methods, her own strategies, the details of which are well known, and I don't have to enumerate them because I don't want to talk like Rahul Ishwar. So, what connects the two spaces? Bobby Chemanur must have a space as a tycoon, business tycoon, in the words of Honey Rose. Honey Rose must have her space as a very successful, popular model who charges outlandish amounts even to inaugurate something. Let me tell you, I have inaugurated many events, not shops. If somebody invites me to inaugurate a shop, I will not go, certainly. And nobody in his senses will invite me to inaugurate a shop because I don't even go shopping. I rarely go shopping. It's my wife who does all the shopping, poor thing. Shopping tires me out in quick time. So a person has to be completely out of his senses to invite me to inaugurate a shop which I despise. All right. So the two spaces are connected in a transactional manner. The spaces of Bobby Chemanur, who happens to be a male, and the space of the advertisement model called Honey Rose, who happens to be a female. Now, the male and the female here are not accidental. The choice of Honey Rose as the prime object of public attention and attraction is gender-based. She is there not only because she is beautiful, I don't dispute it at all, though I have my own idea of beauty by which the score she may gain may look very different, and therefore I will not reveal my scores. She was not invited only because she is beautiful, but also because she is a woman. You could also have invited, or Bobby Chemanur could also have invited a handsome male. And I have a sneaking suspicion that there are handsome men in Kerala and also distinguished men in Kerala. I'm not saying that you should only have male dignitaries. I'm not a male chauvinist. Bobby Chemanur has all the freedom in the world to decide which gender he wants to display and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying here is that what Honey Rose is trying to do is to protect her own space, and by doing so, she's trying to, and this is most important, she's trying to sharpen her identity which is extremely important in protecting, in fact, enhancing her brand value. Now, a person who does not have very clearly demarcated personality outlines will have no brand value. To create and protect or enhance your brand value, you need to define the outlines of your personality, make it as distinctive, as striking as possible. And what was Bobby Chemanur doing? Bobby Chemanur was trying to belittle that by his uncalled for comparisons, allusions, if you like, innuendos. He was trying to actually scar the surface of the identity that Honey Rose had so carefully and assiduously, painstakingly created and projected in public, because that's vital for her commercial success. Just as it is important for Bobby Chemanur to have and to project Honey Rose as an object of beauty at the inauguration of his shop to ensure his commercial success, so also in the case of Honey Rose, it's important, it is imperative for her to protect the very well-defined outlines of her personality in order to ensure her commercial success. The unfortunate part here is that Bobby Chemanur's way of promoting his commercial success collided with Honey Rose's way of promoting and ensuring her commercial success, which then becomes couched, articulated, configured in the form of gender wars. Basically, this is not a gender war at all. This is nothing but a clash of two commercial interests. And these commercial interests are then packaged in gender terms, and therefore Bobby Chemanur, Bocce being a male, cannot but have sinister intentions towards the model, who is a woman, and the snide remarks he makes is an attempt to deface, to tarnish femininity in general. So suddenly from the particular, it takes a leap forward to becoming general and universal. So Bobby Chemanur is accused not only of insulting a woman in public, but also casting aspersions on womanhood or femininity in general. That's why it becomes a big social issue. That's why many people, all the feminist activists are ranged or are arranged behind her. They stand under her banner. And some pathetic individuals who are the self-styled ambassadors of male dignity, the defenders and protectors of male dignity, like Rahul Ishwar, and there is the president of some organization which is devoted to protecting the freedom and dignity of men. From my point of view, all these self-appointed saviors are doing something absolutely stupid. And also, this whole idea that a gender war is in progress is totally erroneous. There is no gender war here. It's a clash of commercial interests, that's pure and simple. Now, why do I say that this is stupid? And I would even say that it is absolutely counterproductive. And in this kind of avoidable, meaningless, profitless war, the very purpose that we seek to project and protect will be ruined and corrupted. So the more people clamor for protecting the dignity of women, the more it will become suspect, it will be weakened, it will be undermined, whether you like it or not. Because what is important for male or female, what's important is to preserve that aura of sanctity and mystery around us. I'll come to that in a short while. So this whole enterprise is misguided. I need to tell you why I think so. My basis for saying this is, pardon me, spiritual. From a spiritual point of view, the male and the female are not meant to be two warring factions, two armies facing each other, mandated to conduct a never-ending gender war and never finish that war until one of the two is eliminated. I think this is absolutely stupid, and I would say that this is anti-life. The Bible says that God created humanity as male and female. In other words, you cannot separate male from the female, and in grammar is a conjunction. And the function of conjunction is to hold two factors together. So the Bible says God created humanity male and female. It means that humanity can be real, genuine, healthy, and rich only when male and female become one, or that is to say, when there is no need for any strife between them. Strife means that both parties are trying to create and protect separate spaces for themselves, and between them there is a chasm that should not be bridged. I believe that this is completely anti-life. I cannot imagine a life in which the male and the female are sworn enemies to each other. The fundamental truth is that both are incomplete without the other. Man needs woman, woman needs man like the very breath of life. There's no question, no uncertainty, and therefore no apology in my mind about this. In contrast to this, a completely anti-life picture or pattern is being promoted. Man is woman's eternal and inevitable enemy. The woman can only be a victim. I'm not denying the fact that women are ill-treated in our society, but my argument is that it's an aberration and not the original norm. We should never legislate, we should never generalize from an aberration, because any generalization based on aberration will be a generalization of an aberration, which will only aggravate the problem and never afford a breakthrough point, whereas our interest must be to heal this gender war and to make human life together an experience of shared joy and fulfillment and security for both. After all, Honeyrose and Boucher came together, both in the pursuit of money. And if they could be together in the pursuit of money, if man and woman can be together in the pursuit of money, why can't be together in the pursuit of life? That's a question I want to raise. So this idea that the strategy of strife is the only strategy available to negotiate the space between the male and the female is a completely diabolic anti-life idea. The only truth is that the male and the female are one. They must become one. They must reinforce and enrich each other reciprocally. And one cannot pursue a goal or an interest, one cannot carve out a space for oneself to the exclusion of the other without destroying the very logic and richness of life. That's my concern. But unfortunately, the present worldview is a fragmentizing and atomizing worldview. And this is important for us to understand. What is the characteristic of this atomizing worldview or outlook? It chops up reality into small segments, slices, and treats each slice as a self-contained entity. And then you look at the whole thing not from the perspective of the whole, but from the perspective of that isolated slice. And it is the delusion of that isolated, separated slice that everything else is a source of danger, threat, menace. I have to protect myself from everything else. Now, clearly, as any psychologist would agree with me, this denotes a pathological state of mind, a pathological personality. Though unknowingly, without realizing it, all of us are becoming sick. So this debate that's now unfolding itself in Kerala is not a sign of Kerala's cultural, human, or ethical robustness, but it's a public display of a collective sickness. Now, this brings me back to Bocce's use of language. I have no hesitation in saying that this collective sickness, which is today afflicting Kerala, is amply reflected in the kind of conversational and declamatory style that Bocce has made his USP or his brand mark. And he has done so because he realizes, or he thinks, he could be completely wrong, but he certainly believes that this is the best way to appeal to the prevailing interest. And the easiest way to connect to the masses is by using these innuendos, these sexually colored quibbles. And there is a ready, assured consumer clientele there. Now, if Boche thinks that universally the people of Kerala will frown upon his style of speaking, he will certainly change it. The reason why he has never felt the need to reform his way of speaking is that from his own experience he thinks and thinks very strongly that there is a very large market for this kind of very low taste way of talking and making public statements. There is a clientele. It's a question of demand and supply. And if there are no consumers for this, there will be no supply. I'm not defending Bocce. I'm only saying that this is a reality. If tomorrow Bocce speaks very speaks in a chase fashion, like for example a Pentecostal pastor, very very chaste words. Whether all pastors speak chaste words, I leave you to decide. Do you think even 5% of the people who today listen to him with great expectation would even lend an ear partially to him? I doubt it very much. So there is a reality that we need to reckon. There's no point in saying, no, Keralites are all very highly refined in taste. There is a tremendous market for very refined speech and all that. I don't deny the fact that there are individuals here and there, very well-meaning, very enlightened individuals who would hate this kind of low taste, low speech, or the sort of boorish way of using the Malayalam language. I have no doubt about it. I concede it readily, but I'm also insisting that there is a very large market for the sort of lumpen, low taste misuse of the language. And that reality has to be reckoned. It has to be addressed. So basically, it's not really a gender war at all. And those who are working overtime to distort it into this kind of wrong mode, misleading mode, are actually hiding the reality. The reality is that this really denotes a pattern which is very common. Everybody is in this game. The scale will vary, the degree will vary, but the same kind, the same thing is happening. Everybody is out to create one's own space. Nobody wants anybody else to trespass into that territory. At the political level, it is a strife between Hindus and Muslims, sometimes Hindus and Christians. It's a kind of strife for designated spaces. The political space, in the political sphere is also the contest between BJP and the Congress. The reason why BJP says we cannot sleep until Congress is wiped out of India. Congress Mukt Bharat. What is the meaning of all this strife? Each party is trying to create its own space, but when a party thinks that it is now powerful and rich enough to expand itself and expand its space to such an extent that no elbow room needs to be left for any other party, then it would say Congress Mukt Bharat, Opposition Mukt Bharat, and Dissent Mukt Bharat, so on and so forth. And if Bocce is in a position to say that there should be no other contender against me, no other industrialist, no other successful mega trader, he would say, Bocce only Kerala. He would say that. Why not? And if there is no other, and Honey Rose thinks that, no other model should have a space in Kerala, and she is the supreme. She would say, all other models free Kerala, or all other models mukt Kerala, honey rose alone Kerala. This is human nature. I'm not blaming anyone. For example, if the Pentecostal pastors are allowed a free run and allowed to convert all other Christians, there will be no other church left. But of course, other padris are very careful and smart enough. They know how to protect their territory. So the relationship between various denominations and parachurch organizations is one of strife, not one of unity or goodwill. That's the truth. There's no question about it. And the same thing is given a gender bias in this context, whereas there's nothing but a strife involving commercial interests. But in the process, what is happening is that the very foundation of human welfare, the very logic of life is being shaken to its very foundation. And I'm convinced that this is a dangerous thing to do. And people who are participating in it very gleefully with an air of pseudo heroism about it do not know what they're talking about. And I believe it's an insult to the men in Kerala that they need somebody like Rahul Ishwar to protect them. I want to tell Rahul Ishwar that I don't need anybody to protect my dignity, my freedom, my security. And if I need Rahul Ishwar's protection, I would be ashamed of myself. Perhaps a referendum needs to be initiated in Kerala to find out how many men in Kerala need this kind of protection. According to Rahul Ishwar, all men today are in grave peril, grave danger. And unless men organize themselves to defend themselves against women, the so-called weaker sex, will all be in peril. Now, this is utter nonsense. And Rahul Ishwar dishes out this nonsense only because he thinks that there is a market for it. Once again, this is the same principle of demand and supply. And on the other hand, there are women, the feminists, who are out to protect women from men. They also belong to the same category. They do this only because they think there is a market for it. It's a question of demand and supply. Bobby Chemenu showcases honey rose only because he thinks there is a market for it. It's a question of demand and supply. Honey rose is trying to create the image that she is being degraded, she is being insulted, humiliated, her brand value is being eroded, only because she knows that there will be a substantial clientele for that kind of grievance mongering. It's again a question of demand and supply. So ultimately, if you really break down this particular episode into its constituent parts, you will find that the one factor common to all of them is this demand-supply principle. If you understand this particular reality, then you will be able to look at the whole situation from an objective, non-partisan, dispassionate perspective and understand more and more of the deeper aspects of the pattern and the reality that I've tried to look at through this episode. So I conclude by once again telling each one of you how much I value my sense of cyber solidarity with all of you. I would certainly value your coming and spending time with me in Trivandrum. If and when you are in Trivandrum, feel free to come by. My wife and I will be delighted to welcome you home and share with you our life, our poverty, our joys, and our sorrows. And till then, I wish you all the very best. Thank you.